Hello and welcome back to the Footballing Question YouTube channel, and today I am bringing back my tier list series as I will finish off all the defenders in the Premier League. Of course, I've ranked goalkeepers, right backs and left backs, so naturally the next step is to rank the best centre back, which I believe to be, for me, every single Premier League team in this season. You know, I'll admit it was a tough one deciding which centre backs are which. I mean, there's some teams where I just picked whoever I remember because I think their defence is naturally just quite bad. With certain teams, and I'll get to them in a minute, some of them are new signings. Some of them are January signings, I think. Well, one of them is at least. But yeah, this will be an interesting one. But let's just get into it. Okay, so here we are. Premier League centre backs 21-22, and here is my selection. Okay, I don't really know where to start. I'll start off just at the start. So Christopher Dier, new signing from Celtic for Brentford this season. I think he's had a relatively good season. I mean, Brentford, newcomers to the Premier League. I mean, they're pretty much safe, aren't they? And to say that in early February is pretty impressive. Really good job by them. I mean, he's not. The thing is with Brentford, it's very different to the other kind of sides which you may have expected to be in the relegation zone. I mean, they were expected to be lower down the table, and comparing them to, say, a Watford or a Newcastle, it was very hard to pick someone. And with Brentford, it was very hard for a different reason, in that I think Chris Dier is good, but I think Ethan Pinnock as well is equally capable as a defender, and it was, that only shows how well they've done. But for the high-profile signing that he was from Celtic, and he was pretty much the biggest signing they made in the summer, and the most significant, and I think he's shown that. And I'm really glad to see a team that's new to the Premier League really succeed. So yeah, with him, I'm going to put him in does the job. That's right. That's exactly where he's going to put him in. That's pretty good for Brentford, considering they're new to the Premier League. Now next, I'm going to go Bednarek. Now Southampton over the last 2 or 3 years have struggled and been mentioned in the relegation battle. Do I think they'll go down? No. I mean, it might happen some year soon, but I don't think they'll go down this season. Bednarek, he's had good moments, but that's the thing, he's had good moments. So for me, I think he goes in inconsistent, because I've seen him equally come up with really good moments for Southampton and help them, but at the same time, really can struggle as a player. And yeah, definitely an inconsistent. He's not entirely useless, but he's inconsistent. And this season's really shown that even more with the loss of Vestergaard, who's not even starting for Leicester. But if they had Vestergaard back, they'd certainly be doing a little bit better. Next, I'm going to go with Watford. Now with Watford, I don't know, it was really hard. I looked at who'd played the most for Watford, so I went for Craig Cathcart. I mean, if Dawson was still there, it would have been him hands down, but Craig Cathcart gets in. And he's an old player, he's been around for a while. It's really harsh with the older players, you know what I mean? It's just a bit tough, because I don't want to call him useless. But Watford's defence is pretty useless. And the fact they're still relying on someone like Craig Cathcart is a bit of a joke. I mean, they signed in Kulu, and he's only played 3 games, I think. Sierrata, the Chilean defender, and he, I think, got an own goal on his debut very early on in the season, which was a bit pathetic. But they've really just, looking at their options in defence, God, they need to improve. They plan on staying up, and they didn't really. So yeah, Watford, Craig Cathcart, useless. I mean, I feel harsh, but that's just where I'm going to put him. So next, I'm going to go with Wolves, Connor Cody. Gets a few England call-ups, he does nowadays. Whether I agree with it or not is, another subject entirely. But he certainly is a capable defender, more capable in a back 3 than a 4. But we shouldn't really judge him on that, since he's naturally played most of his Wolves career in that situation. It was a conversation. I was thinking, do I put Willy Bolly here maybe, or Max Kilman? But I went with Cody. He's the senior, he's the captain, so I put him in there. And I'm going to put him in does the job again. I think he's proven in his recent time in the Premier League that he is a good defender and he is capable in the Premier League, and I think I've got to respect that. And he's captaining his side, and they've never really looked like they're ever going to go down. And to come up from the Championship and then just solidify yourself as a mid-table or top 10 side is impressive in its own right. And he's been the captain the entire time, and you've got to give him the credit for that. Next, this is the only January signing out of all of these, Dan Burn. Now I've got to say, if Dan Burn did not sign for Newcastle, God no, I think I'd have probably put Jamal Lascelles here, and he'd have probably gone into useless or inconsistent if I was feeling happy. But Dan Burn, I'm putting him straight into. Part of me considers putting him in top draw. I think he's a quality centre half, but I'm going to put him in does the job. I'll put him in does the job. He's a good centre half, and it's such a loss for Brighton. I mean, when you think about it, the last 2 windows, they've lost 2 of their best centre halves. They've lost Ben White in the summer, but they could cope with that because they still had a fair few core centre halves. So now Dan Burn's gone. It's pretty much down to their bare bones with Duffy and Dunk. But Dan Burn, such a huge loss to me. What is he? 6'6", just height, amazing for a centre half. But his physical ability, and when you compare him to the defenders which Newcastle have, it's a vast improvement. And if you watch our recent video discussing the best and worst transfers, I do make a case for Newcastle, and he's one of the reasons why signing a Premier League proven talent who will instantly improve your squad. Yeah, he's a good player, and I'll put him there. Next, Ruben Diaz, and yep, straight into world class, no debate about it. I think he's probably one of the best signings City have made in recent years, because he's instantly just clicked and filled the gap that they need, and he's a quality centre half. I mean, in my Ballon d'Or rankings, I would have had him in my top 5. I think if Portugal went all the way, if he'd won the Champions League, I think he should have won the Ballon d'Or. I think he's an amazing centre half. His ability, just his defensive ability, it's very different to Van Dijk when you see them in terms of like Van Dijk is almost feared sometimes. He stays off and kind of calculates, and Diaz is different mainly because in the system that he plays in, they don't really get attacked at all. But Diaz is just such a crucial cog in the machine that is Man City, and yeah, he was the perfect defender for them when they signed him. And I'm sorry, but coming in as a defender for a club which really struggled defensively a season before, and then winning the league in your first season, can't really go without being noticed. So yeah, Ruben Diaz straight into world class for me. Eric Dier. Now, I don't watch much of Tottenham, honestly, mainly due to the fact that I'm an Arsenal fan, obviously. So yeah, you'd know that. But I have heard whispers from Tottenham fans that Dier's actually been okay this season. He's been better. Now with Dier, I'm going to put him in does the job. Now, if I did this last season, he'd go into inconsistent or useless. But there's whispers of him maybe rediscovering the form that he had in maybe 2016. And I do remember watching the Euros where he was playing in defensive midfield, and I really saw a future of him in the England squad. And slowly but surely his career just kind of died and slowly just dissipated. And you're hoping, even though he plays for Tottenham, you're hoping that a player with certain abilities can get back there, maybe, similarly to Dele Alli. And he is a capable defender. I think him getting here says more about Tottenham's squad, though, than it does about him. It says more the quality of their centre-halves. Because you'd think with a signing like Davinson Sanchez for 40 million, he should be walking into this tier list. But I really don't think he's ever been good at Tottenham. Cristiano Romero, not too sure of him, of what I've seen in the Premier League. And like I've said, from what I've heard from Tottenham fans, he's been their best centre-back this season. So he's got to be in there. Lewis Dunk. Now, it's one of those ones. I'm going to put him in does a job purely because I didn't put Dan Burn there, because I think it would be unfair, because they were both pretty much part of the same defence for a long time. And I think Lewis Dunk, I mean, he's been the best of the bunch for Brighton, and people have always talked about him as being on the peripheries of their England squad and never really getting the credit he deserves. And he's a quality centre-half. I mean, I've watched him play live and clear things off the line. He is capable. He's, and the thing is, people will talk about him as the language that people use around English centre-halves like Lewis Dunk is the kind of language they use with players like Ben Mee or Tarkovsky, who are good, but they talk about him in the same way that Burnley are. No. If you watch the way Brighton play, he's a lot more of a modern centre-half. I mean, sure, he's not exactly like Ben White, who he used to play with, who's very much forward-thinking, on the ball, everything. But Lewis Dunk is, I think, the halfway point between that, and he's an intelligent player who probably should have had an England call-up by now, but hasn't really got his chance and probably won't at this rate. But is he a good player? Yes, I'd 100% say it. And I'm just realising there's a lot of does jobs here. Next, Mark Gayhee. I'm putting him top drawer. It's his first full season in the Premier League. Obviously, a Chelsea youngster, went to Swansea last season on loan, had a fantastic season, got to the playoff final, unfortunately lost to Brentford, but he would have known that after that kind of season, he would have got his move from Chelsea to a Premier League club, whether it be loan or permanent. He's got the permanent move to Palace, and he's improved their defence. He's working brilliantly with Joachim Andersen. I mean, he was another debate to be had, Joachim Andersen, as he's been good this season, but Mark Gayhee's been superb. And I really think this kid's got a bright future. And should he maybe get into the England squad? I mean, there are arguments to be had about him maybe getting in. Obviously, Conor Gallagher just made it in. Smith Rowe's just made it in. Mark Gayhee in the next squad? Maybe. I mean, if he's not in the squad for the World Cup, I expect him to be in the squad for the next Euros, 100%. With players like, like I said, Connor Cody's still getting called up. Take him out because he's an ageing centre-half. Get this kid in. He's really, really quality. And it kind of annoys me when I see young English players really close to the squad but not getting in, because in the time between tournaments I feel it's the right time to be bedding these players in. But do I think Mark Gayhee is top drawer? Yes, without a doubt. Next, Grant Hanley, useless. Okay, with Norwich I just picked whoever. I picked Hanley because he's the captain. I could have picked Kabak, whoever, but Grant Hanley, yeah, I'm sorry. Norwich are defensively just an absolute state. And this is the easiest pick I'm going to do. I don't even know if I'm going to spend more than 10 seconds on this. Yeah, Norwich, awful. Yeah, I've never really rated Grant Hanley. Next, Ezri Konsa. I'm putting him in top drawer. I guess there's maybe a bit of a bias with the younger players who I see a bit of potential with, other than maybe Crystal Via, but with Konsa, I really thought he should have made it the Euro squad instead of his teammate Tyrone Mings, and I think he's the better out of the two. I think Tyrone Mings really only gets the England squad due to the fact that he's left-footed. And Ezri Konsa is a lot more able, he's a lot more intelligent of a player, I think. I think he reads the game a little bit better. I think he's better on the ball, he's more agile, Basically, Tyrone Mings got in there because of his physical attributes, being his height and what foot he's good on, Whereas Ezri Konsa, I think, is the much more technically gifted footballer out of the two. Yeah, I think he should be getting into the England squad any day now. Okay, next, Diego Yorente. With Leeds United, I don't know, it was a tough one. I was thinking maybe Robin Koch, but from what I've seen from Leeds, I don't know, I've never really thought of anything of him. Strauch was never really an option for me to put in. I considered Liam Cooper, because he's been there a while, he's captain. Well, not captain, but he's captain for Scotland, isn't he? I think. Actually, no, he isn't. He's Robertson, isn't it? God. But Llorente, when I've seen him play, I think he's impressed me. But at the same time, Leeds are really awful defensively, so he's going in inconsistent. But yeah, they have really struggled this season. Leeds, they're going to stay up probably, but I mean, they've really been a shadow of their former selves of last season, and yeah, you'd hope maybe they can step it up a gear for the rest of the season, or at least try and get back to where they were for next season, But Diego Llorente, I'm putting him inconsistent. Next, Yerry Mina. For Everton centre-halves, obviously the big debate was him, Holgate, or Michael Keane. Michael Keane, probably I would have been my pick 2 years ago, but he's really been shocking for the last few years. Yerry Mina, I do think there is a player in there. Holgate's never really quite fulfilled his potential yet. I mean, how long do you have to wait, really? But Mina, I'm putting him inconsistent. I think there is clearly a player in there. There's clearly ability to be had. But just like Everton, they just have their dips in form. And oh my word, just look at Everton this season. And I don't think he's been in the squad the entire time, but when he has, I still see a player which has a clanger waiting to happen in him. Antonio Rudiger. I really want to put him here in this little gap. I wish I could put him here. I'm going to put him in top drawer because it's really hard to say world class on Rudiger, but I really think he's harshly underrated. There was obviously a consideration, I thought maybe put Thiago Silva here, but in Thiago Silva's time at Chelsea, Rudiger's been the better centre-half, and I think that's an easy debate to be had. When I look at Rudiger, his physicality, he's really not rated for how fast he is. He's a very fast centre-half. And I think he's vastly underrated. I don't see many players getting past him. And I really think he's a quality player. I mean, some may have said he struggled in his early times in the Premier League, but if you compare his time at Chelsea to Maguire's time at Man United, it's a massive contrast. I think he's a quality centre-half, and he really does not get the plaudits he deserves. Next, I'm going to go Soyuncu. Some people may have said Fofana, but again, Fofana's still quite young, and he's not played this season, so I thought it was hard to rank him. Soyuncu's been in the Premier League a little bit longer, so I thought it would be easier to rank him, and I'll put him in, does the job. Tall centre-half, good in the air, capable, can make a mistake, but I wouldn't really call him inconsistent in that sense. I think Leicester as a club are actually quite inconsistent, but this, you can't deny they've been really kind of struck by injuries. He was, working quite well with Fofana last season. Now he's working differently with Vestergaard and other options, but I think he's the best they've got, and I think he's a good centre-half, and yeah, that's exactly where I'd put him. Next, I'm going to go with Tarkovsky. Tarkovsky, I'm going to put him in top drawer. He has had his England call-up once, I think in like 2017, I think. He hasn't really been called up since, I don't think. But I do think he's a good centre-back. Big ears himself. I think he is obviously capable in the air. He defends for Burnley, for Christ's sake. And yeah, as much as people like to say about Burnley, he's a good centre-half. Sean Dyche is a manager which is getting the best out of him. And unlike Dunk, did actually get his England call-up as a result. I think Ben Mee probably should as well. But I think Tarkovsky is the better out of the two. I mean, it could have been either, and I'd be probably making the exact same argument. But yeah, underrated, undervalued. Yeah, he gets into top drawer for me. Next, Van Dijk. World class, easy. World class, 100%. I mean, what do you need to say? He's won the World Cup, World Club Cup technically. He's won the Champions League and the League with Liverpool. I mean, the difference with him on the pitch is ridiculous. Look at Liverpool the season he joined, before he signed for them, and after. It is ridiculous. He really changed them into the title-hungry team that they are. I mean, he's just transformed their defence. Players dribble around him, not at him, because they are terrified of him. It's hard to imagine a centre-half like that. When you think of centre-backs in the Premier League, putting that kind of fear in players, it's hard to think of many other than the likes of maybe Tony Adams, Vidic, Terry. He is a dominant, massive centre-half and easily gets into world class for me. Easily. This shouldn't even be a debate. Next, Raphael Varane. I mean, a few years ago you might have put him in world class. I'm putting him in top drawer, personally, because I've not seen that much of him. That's been great this season for Man United. I don't think he's been amazing. He's been okay. He's not been the worst defender for Man United, but is that an achievement? No, because Man United have been pretty awful this season. But clearly there is a player there with certain abilities, and he is a good defender at his core, but this season he hasn't really made the difference at United that he would have hoped. So yeah, he goes there for me. And now, Ben White. Top drawer. I'm sorry, I'm putting him in top drawer. I had Gabriel as the Arsenal centre-half until the very end, and I changed it to Ben White purely because I think in the last month or so, I think Ben White's been quality. I mean, I always say centre-back pairings, you need one who is kind of the ball carrier, the one who is more natural, the more modern centre-half, and one who is a lot more physical. And Gabriel is the more physical one, and he's actually quite dodgy on the ball. Whereas Ben White, I see him sometimes just going on for a dribble to the halfway line. He's a very capable, modern centre-half, and perhaps what Brighton were missing a little bit. And I really love the look of him as a player. I mean, you see when Arsenal when Arsenal scored against City on New Year's Day, the goal really comes from him. De Bruyne's on the ball, and Ben White steps out defence, wins the ball, presses high, and Arsenal score within 15 seconds of him winning the ball back. And he really is what Arsenal need. Him and Gabriel work so well together. And it's really hard to pick who's better, but as an Arsenal fan, I've loved Ben White this season. He's massively impressed me, and I'd say Ben White, yeah. And top drawer, absolutely. I mean, you look where Arsenal are this season. Did I expect us to be in the race for top four? Not at all. And Ben White's played a part in that. It's undeniable. And finally, we're going to go with Zuma. Now, Zuma, I'm going to put him in, does the job. With Zuma, he's had moments with Chelsea and you thought, is he going to be the player that they want him to be? And it never really quite fell for him. He never really got that solid place in the lineup that he wanted, especially with the incoming of Thiago Silva last season. But at West Ham, you know, he's going to get a lot more game time. He's had an injury, I believe, but he is clearly in a place where he is valued now. And with West Ham, the only real argument I had was maybe Dawson, who's been quite good for them. But I think Zuma's clearly is their best centre-half. And I'm more judging this over his overall time in the Premier League. And do I see him as a good centre-half? Yeah, he does a job. Would I rank him as top draw though? Probably not. I mean, in top draw is a centre-back who stopped him from playing at Chelsea. It'd be kind of ironic for me to put him there. But yeah, I think he's a capable enough centre-half, but that's it. So there we go. Yeah, that is my Premier League centre-backs ranked. What do you think? Are there any unjust ones? If you're angry about the, say, Varanes and Rudigers, I probably think there should have been another one here. So I might move it around and maybe like put it in order if you want. So like, yeah, there could have been like a little gap in between world class and top draw, but I made this tier list before I thought it through, so that's it. But they probably should be in a little gap in between. They're not quite in the world class, but they're definitely not. It's not that I wouldn't call them top draw. Then they're definitely above Tarkovsky and Konsa. But I think I didn't want to put Tarkovsky in, does the job. But that is it. What do you think? Comment below if you agree or disagree. Where would you put players? If you like this video, then obviously drop it a like. Subscribe for more content like this one. I'll do other tier lists. Ashley will do very different analytical content probably. You've got the career mode content, which should be getting a lot more viewers actually from Jordan. We've also obviously got the podcast. We'll get highlights up. Highlights should actually be coming. I think highlight came yesterday, so please watch that. That's decent content. And also listen to the actual podcast, which is on Spotify. And we've also got our socials. They should be linked in the description. Ding the bell for notifications as well. That should be down here. So ding the bell for that, so you'll be notified whenever we upload any videos, not just mine or Ashley's, just any of them. And yes, that is it. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Hopefully you're not angry and fuming that I've managed to put Ben White at the same ranking as Raphael Varane. But yeah, this has been the Footballing Question, and hopefully you've had a good time. See you around.